Hey YouTube, this is Captain Infidel again. Good to talk to you all. And this video is basically just going to be kind of a rebuttal to the flack I've caught on my recent video, A Plea to Secularists. And I haven't really caught flack, but I kind of wanted to clarify some misunderstandings. There have been a bunch of comments that have elaborated on the fact that fundamentalist Christianity is a big danger in America. For the most part, that's true. I mean, the best comment that came up, and there's like 40 or something in like a day, so people apparently kind of, this might be a controversial subject, but anyway. The best comment was that of Prof. MTH, a very articulate gentleman. Prof. MTH brought up the point that Islam and Christianity's ultimate goals are that of worldwide dominating hegemony. And what is hegemony, you might add? It's not a word that's used a lot in the media, and it's certainly not a word that a lot of people are familiar with. But it's basically the idea that if you have ultimate power, it's all based on power. Okay, ultimate hegemony means you have ultimate power, and it's used in a superpower complex or a context for America. For instance, America is the most hegemonic nation on the face of the planet because it has the most amount of power. It has the most amount of political power, it has the most amount of military power, and thus it has the greatest amount of hegemony. It's allowed, that hegemony and that power production allows it to protect its interests, its economic interests, and its political and cultural interests across the world. But basically, the context that Prof. MTH is using is that ultimately, the purpose and the goal of fundamentalist Islam and fundamentalist Christianity is to gain that ultimate hegemony and basically dominate the world. That's basically what he's talking about. From an intellectual standpoint, from a principle standpoint, and from a religious standpoint, they want to dominate the world. And I can't really argue this. Prof is absolutely right. I mean, we could see in the past and in the present that when a religious organization, when a religion reaches a sufficient percentage of the population, not a total population, but a percentage of the population, and it controls a substantial amount of wealth and power, atrocities will always happen. And this is especially true, and has happened many times in the Christian church. I mean, we have the Crusades, we have infighting between churches during the Protestant Reformation, we have the Spanish Inquisition, and the abandonment of the Orthodox Christian church to the Saracens. So I mean, there's many other examples, but those are the main ones. But my point is that in modern times, is the church as powerful, comparatively speaking, to when it was back in the day? Of course it not. And does it have secular authority, or does secular authority in modern democracies override this religious authority? And it absolutely does. I think you ultimately know that that's the correct answer. And I think a lot of these arguments against my video are just semantical. I mean, they really don't detract from my original point, and that is that Islam is the greater of those two evils. But I mean, if you really want to get into this discussion, let's look at Islam in comparison to Christianity in modern and historical times. The first observation that I have to throw out there is that the Muslims have never had the kind of renaissance, the kind of secular renaissance that Western society has. I mean, they are right now in history at the point of their Inquisition. I mean, the only difference between the Islamic Inquisition and the Spanish Inquisition is that both parties, and by that I mean Sunnis and Shiites, are equated with the Catholics and the Protestants of the Spanish Inquisition. Both parties have the means to inflict large-scale death and destruction on each other and on the rest of the world. And during the Spanish Inquisition, the Catholics had all the power and just absolutely obliterated any sect of Protestantism that came along. I mean, make no mistake, though, fundamentalist Islamofascists are just as brutal as the Inquisitors of yore were. So, anyway, in the 9th century, the Islamic cultures were quite secular, however. I mean, they were very advanced, and they had a lot of technology and mathematics and astronomy, and they were very well versed with all these because they were secular culture. However, they never had a secular renaissance, and like we did, and all their progress was stopped in its tracks as a result of it. They had a degression, and instead of progressively moving forward as a secular culture, they moved away from that and became fundamentalist Islam. And ever since their glory days, I mean, Islam has just been on the intellectual decline, and now they're fighting again, and with each other more than anything. And ultimately, the only thing that unites the Muslim sects is fighting against us and the Jews. That's the only thing that unites them. Otherwise, they're at each other's throats. Anyway, I might be getting off topic here a little bit. I apologize. So let me regress. Ultimately, my point is still the same as in my last video, and that is that fundamentalist Christianity is dangerous, and yes, fundamentalist Christianity is powerful. But ultimately, there really is no hope whatsoever of America's army, the armed forces, under fundamentalist president taking over America and installing the Ten Commandments as the most dominant laws in our society. That kind of fundamentalist Christianity, that shit's not going to fly. It's not as accepted as it used to be. I mean, it just will not happen. There is too much resistance from secular-minded and liberal-minded Americans to let it happen. I mean, remember, secularists, Western society, as I've said before, already had its renaissance, and we are way too far along. We've progressed way too far past that point for us to detract back into our Inquisition days. It's just not going to happen. And besides, Christianity is ultimately, it's on the fall. I'd like to direct your attention to the right of the screen, to this link on the right, in order to further my point. I mean, this guy's talk is pretty lengthy, but if you want to really and truly get my point articulated, then watch this video. The point made is very, very articulate. Anyway, ultimately, I don't really have anything to worry about the Christians. I mean, the most harm that they can do is kick the teaching of evolution out of public schools. That's the best. And even that is unlikely. I mean, fundamentalist Christians really don't have that much power in America. They don't. They don't have that much power. And yeah, you can give me localized exceptions like this courthouse or that judge or that politician is a fundamentalist Christian, but there are exceptions. It's not the rule. Ultimately, they're checked back by our secular government. There's checks and balances on their power from every other angle. Not only just within their branch, but from without. I mean, that's the whole point of a three system of government. You know, have the executive, the judicial, and the legislature. That's the whole point of it. So, I mean, that brings me back to my original point, is that Islam is the greater of two evils, and we should be fighting them the most. We shouldn't ignore fundamentalist Christianity at home, but we shouldn't be picking pointless fights with them because we have priorities that are more important. But I mean, that's just my opinion. If you don't agree with me, then you don't have to listen to me. Ultimately, that's fine. If your thing is combating Christianity, if your thing is combating creationism or trying to kick out sanctioned prayer or trying to reopen that local bar that got shut down because some asshole church moved in, I mean, that's fine. That's good work. I'm all for it. Do your thing. And hell, I love to fight with creationist Christians on my other account. I really love to do that. But ultimately, is it productive? And that's kind of the question you have to ask yourself. You have to pick your battles and find out, is this shit fest that I'm going to get into, is it fun or is it productive? So anyway, good luck in your endeavors, you beautiful secularists. I hope all of you have fun and are productive and are successful on your quests. I really do. But think about my words for just a second. Let them lull over in your mind and just decide for yourself on what to do. But this is my thing. I think this is the most important issue facing America and Western society is fundamentalist Islam. And after that, we can deal with the Christians. Anyway, peace.